to be here. As Somto has introduced me, I like to say that I'm a smile designer par excellence and an orthodontist. So my typical day is this. Described from a patient perspective, I'm coming into the waiting room. I am guided by the patient care executive into this small, tiny room with, yes, a colorful chair. And I lie down while waiting for my doctor. So what I see is just that ceiling. And of course, the lights of the dental chair, that the assistant put on suddenly. And then, the light just came straight into my eyes. And I'm wondering what is going to happen next as soon as the dentist comes in. And you all agree with me, if you've been to the dentist, that is one very vulnerable position to be in, where you're lying down on your back, pretty much leaving the faith to your dentist to be able to tell you what he's going to do or what he's not going to tell you and he's still going to do. So you will agree with me that being in that space could be quite challenging for the patient. But I also want to tell you what is happening on the other side. So of course, my day-to-day life is being in that room, taking care of patients, moving them along the journey to transform their smile and changing their lives. As you have seen through the Project Smile that we have, where we're able to transform the lives of young adults who have gone to school, have lost their smile through an accident or maybe some genetical disorders and never had some teeth. They are not able to function. One day in their life, they can't even sit at an interview because of the flaw of their dentition. So we're able to change and transform their lives, and they're able to move on, getting the job they never thought they could have, socialize, etc. So there is power in the transformation of a smile. So to those who have had braces for one reason or the other, I'm sure you're flaunting your smile and using it to change the world. So that is my space. And of course, beyond just the skill that I continue developing as an orthodontist, there is the fact that I am also the CEO. I'm the clinical director of Smile 360. So being the clinical director of Smile 360 took me a journey. So let me start from where it began, the pain, and where I am right now. I started as a consultant for various practices in Lagos and Abuja, and I did that for 12 years, where I was having my box with my tools, and I was going around practices, opening up my tools, because orthodontic tools are different from the general dental tools. And I started by seeing one patient a week to seeing about 120 patients a week. And I could have days where I could see about 40 patients a day. So it was really busy. And I was hopping from one practice to the other. And one day I decided to speak to one of the practice owners. And I said, guess what? We can do this for our patient. I traveled to the US, I traveled to France, and I saw that this is where the world is going. And I was so excited about, how practicing orthodontics can be more enjoyable for me and for my patients. And I said, this is what we want to do, And when I presented it to them, they said, no, this is how far we can go. And we're not going to change anything. We're making the money. You are earning a good living. Patients are happy. So why do more? And that's where the pain began for me. And I realized that if I had continued, I wouldn't have enjoyed practicing orthodontics the way I've always dreamt of. And I know it's going to keep changing. So making money, yes, was important, but that wasn't the reason why I went into this. And to be honest, it took me 12 years to realize that, I think somebody had to mute. It took me 12 years to realize that this wasn't me, that there was much more behind. And I never realized that I was going to open my practice, to be honest. I know sometimes people say, okay, have a dream, have big dreams, write them down and work towards that. I was happy up to that point where they told me, look, this is the, how far we can go with you. So of course, after that, I switched. And in 6 months, I already found a location, made plans, turned things around, and opened up my practice. So I opened up my practice. Yes, it was still part of the pain, because obviously everything that I had made over the years, I had to put it back. I had to even go to the bank and be able to say, look, I need a loan. And they're like, what do you do? A dentist? How much do dentists make? Dentists don't make so much money. We're happy to give a loan to a designer or someone who is trading goods, but why would we give it to you? So it took a personal relationship at the bank to have some support, and that's why we have to make sure that whatever field we are in, that we contribute in the socio-economic environment, based on that profession. So I started with about 7 staff. And just to cut a bit the story short, today we are 82. And as an entrepreneur, this is what I will say fulfilled me, is to bring more dentists, more dental technicians, more dental nurses, giving them an environment where they can express their skills, where they can be exposed to high-end technology and exposed to the way dentistry is practiced, across the world. So our vision is to definitely be a catalyst for changing the way dentistry is practiced in Nigeria, but even beyond the shores of Nigeria. And through that, we are focusing on one thing, the patient experience. So we want to make sure that we give our patient a mind-blowing experience, because that is one thing I tell my doctors to say, look, there are good doctors everywhere. But if you want to be successful, you need to go beyond your skills. And today I'm speaking to excellence. I was called to speak on excellence because it's something that I'm passionate about, not just the skills. How are you becoming a remarkable and not just successful, but an excellent at what you do? Do I call for the slides now? I almost forgot that I had slides. So please, let's go with the first slide and we'll move on to the second slide. Thank you very much. So I was able to share a bit of my journey. So in creating the practice, I remember the first set of patients. I was able to share my background. So yes, the first set of patients who came into the practice, Smile 360, looked around, looked at the space, looked at the way the staff were communicating, looked at the processes that we had around, and told me, are you a franchise of another practice in the UK or another practice in the States? And I said, no, Smile 360 is born in Nigeria, made in Nigeria for people across the world, for Nigeria, and but no, we are not affiliated. Okay, so that's brought to my attention that when people see good things in Nigeria or excellence, why is it that people don't believe that excellence can be born in Nigeria? When you go even to the restrooms and you see certain things, patients wonder, this cannot be done by someone who is in Nigeria or Nigerian, driven. So the question I'm asking you is, why are we believing that in terms of service delivery in Nigeria, we have to go with this quote I saw that is MILT? Can somebody type in the chat? Have you heard about the MILT? It's a phrase that describes how service delivery should be done in Nigeria. MILT. Let's see in the chat. What does MILT stand for? Anyone? MILT.
That might be a new one for us, Dr. Amy.
All right. So either you have not been to Nigeria or live in Nigeria for a while now, or it's for someone to, walk around the streets, big in businesses. And there was one word that always comes to mind, or people like to say, manage it like that. And we know that when we talk about, so manage it like that, MILT, when we talk about maintenance, a bulb, a simple bulb that, stopped working, it's fine, madam, we'll manage it. Yeah? You have a particular product that may not be the right one. Oh, we'll manage it. You're building, the walls are not straight, and your builder is telling you, madam, that wall is straight, but let's manage it like that. Does that relate? Can anybody relate with that? Yes. Okay. So those are the things that, push me to even say, no, we need to do better. Nigerians deserve better. When you travel across the world, you see a Nigerian enjoying great things, and we just deserve better. And excellent, service is number one. So of course, being in the dental business, and I have to say that I'm passionate about what we do, what I do, but I work with a team. I couldn't have achieved what we did. We were able to scale through, using our patients to be able to spread the word. And of course, it starts by satisfying that patient. So word of mouth is the biggest source of referral in our business. So we're able to scale through, and we were recognized, as Somto has mentioned, being the best dental service provider by the Nigerian Health Excellence Award for 5 times in a row. And I can tell you that dentistry across the globe has a good future, right? Because as long as people live, they will need to eat. And as long as you need to eat, you need your teeth. And as long as you need your teeth, you need what? A dentist, all right? So I believe that for anyone that is there, if we have some young dentists in the house, or anybody thinking about that, you know that this is one area that you would never look for a job one day in your life. So there's definitely a great future for dentistry across the world, but also in Nigeria. What I would like to say is, I'm speaking to a room of future leaders and leaders who have joined from various parts of the world, and we're here to speak about excellence. But if I'm here to ask you, what would you rather achieve? I think we can move through the slides. What would you rather achieve? Excellence or success? Think about it. Can you put in the chat, will you rather achieve? Success or excellence? Success? You want to be successful in your various fields, or you want to achieve excellence? What would you rather achieve? Success or excellence? Great, thank you. Thank you for your contribution. All right, so of course, Tobe says immediate thought is success, of course. Demilade, excellence, okay, both, hey, pourquoi pas, why not? All right, Rieme says excellence, thank you. I remember going to British International School. I was called for their career talk. And, some students came to my table and I was like, why are you here? I said, why not? He said, but we have social media people, we have architects, and we know these people make big money. We will only listen to you if you tell us how much you have in your bank account, right? Because for them, they need to make sure they are successful, and they need to see those numbers in their bank. So yes, let's go through this. So we know the two of them may sound, thank you very much. We know that the two of them may sound are pretty much alike, but there is one important distinction between the two. It's the fact that success can only be short-lived, whereas excellence is something that will be long-lasting. It's like pleasure and happiness. A pleasure will be something that you feel in the moment, right? Whereas happiness is something that you're looking at, keeping, nurturing, that will be with you for the long haul. All right? So let's explore what it takes to pursue excellence. But at the same time, you need to make sure that you're successful in a way, but you want to keep that for a long haul. Okay? So when we look at a life that is truly fulfilling, okay, we look at everything beginning with us. So what are you doing for your own personal growth? Okay? So when you're looking at excellence, it has to begin from you. And when it has to begin from you and you're pursuing excellence, you want to make sure that you are cut off from all the external factors, okay? Because those external factors, you have no control over them. So it's so important that it begins from you and you have that discipline in pushing. So which means that you have to become better as a person, all right? So you have some books out there that, speaks, to that. And I particularly like the one on atomic habits that speaks about how we can be better as a person and those habits that we need to keep. You need to make sure that you're also skillful. You're a dentist. I'm here, for example, in the States for continued education, and there's no limits to how much I can learn, okay? You need to continue pushing to be able to learn more. But most importantly, there is something when we talk about is to ensure that you have a purpose and follow your passion. And as we're speaking to future leaders, I'm sure the previous speakers and the next speakers will always speak to that. I heard that word about have a purpose. And I was like, what is that? How can I have a purpose, right? What does it mean to have a purpose? So for me, in a simple way, I will say is, what is it that, keeps you awake at night? So you look at something and you're like, no, this is not right. I need to make a difference here, okay? If you're building a business, I remember going to a course in a Lagos business school, and they said, if you're going into building a business and you're going there just for the purpose of making money, you're in the right path. Yeah, you're in the wrong path. Because if something happens, you're going to get discouraged. So it's got to be something else, okay, in building that purpose. So what I would like to say is my favorite, you may move to the next slide. My favorite is the fact that to excel, you need to have discipline, okay? And for me, if you are in discipline, you are a slave to your moods. You are a slave to your cravings, right? Because one day you'll wake up and you'll be on one side of the bed, you feel like doing one thing, and tomorrow you feel like doing another thing. So how do you keep that discipline and that focus, is one thing that you want to add as part of those habits that will keep you on the path of excellence. What has worked for me is, for example, breaking things in small bits. As I like to say, build things one smile at a time, right? So very important that if you keep a focus on those small steps, you're sure that you will get to where you're going. So this is, for example, one of the first atomic habits that was shared by James Clear. Okay, so the second one is what? How do you stay positive? I'll come back to this slide later. The next one is say, how do I keep that positive mental attitude? Because remember that we're on a long journey, right? So how do I stay positive, throughout, that journey is very important, so how do I develop those rituals? So for me, what has worked is to ensure that I remain very focused on things that I need to do. So, of course, when we talk about changing those behaviors and those habits, the first thing you're thinking is, okay, I better change the way I eat now. I better start exercising. That gym membership that came into my mailbox, I better subscribe to that right now. Perhaps I'll watch less TV, right? Or maybe less of the reels on my social media or less TikTok. I don't know. You know what I'm talking about. All right. So, but that new lifestyle, how do you build it and how do you stay, on course with that? Okay. So it is very important. And that comes to the third part, is building an environment that helps you sustain that. Okay. So if you have to create that conducive environment that will help you, align with your plan and goal, is of course easy. Perhaps remove the TV, all right, and remove all the sugary stuff around from your house. Monitor your screen usage, things like that. Okay, so those things are very important, but the most important thing is what? That slow and steady determination, that keeps you focused on that goal. Okay, so we need something that keeps us in line. So we separate excellence from mediocrity. Okay, excellence from mediocrity. So we talked about things that have to do with you. Okay, things that have to do with you, but luckily you're not alone. Perhaps we can move to the next slide. Luckily, you're not alone, because guess what? There are people around us, that have probably gone through the same path. And you might be feeling that, I don't want to ask because, I've been there, where I'm thinking, what will the person say? I mean, the worst you get is a no, right? But I can tell you that people who are successful, that you see out there, are people who have had help, mentors. So ensure that you stand on the shoulders of giants, as Isaac Newton says, okay? So I have seen further than others. And this is because I'm standing on the shoulders of giants. So ensure that you look around you and don't hesitate to ask, so that you can see further and people will take you there much faster, okay? The other aspect is what? Being in this forum, being in this future leaders network, all right? You want to be part of something brighter, something bigger than you. And I'm so glad that I was so happy to see, the people on this call, some too, and a couple of others that I've seen as patients, and also being friends with their parents. So I'm so proud of what you guys are doing. Kudos. Well done, well done, well done. This is a great network, but what are you contributing to this network? Don't just be there to take. How much are you contributing? You see, in your relationship as well, that there are some transactional relationships whereby you're looking at, let me go get this, attend. But there are some transformational relationships whereby, and that's where you want to be. How much are you contributing to this network? Okay. And this is very important that, you're able to share, that people are able to trust you, you're able to contribute, all right, and ensure that this network grows just like anyone. All right. So I would like to use a quote that was also shared by Michael Jordan, who is a basketball player. And I love to use basketball because I was also part of the national team, and it's a sport that I really like quite a lot and still play. So if anyone is around me, please invite me one of this weekend to play basketball. So he definitely spoke about willing yourself to greatness. Willing yourself to greatness. That means we need willpower, certainly. But remember that willpower alone is not enough. Willpower alone is not enough, okay? So that's what we talked about, having to have mentors that will keep you on track, and don't be afraid to fail. Of course, there's that quote of Steve Jobs that you may know, that said that if you are afraid of failing, you won't get very far. All right? Fail over and over again. But the most important thing is that you must learn from those mistakes and grow. Okay? So definitely, I will say, use your mentors and make sure that you pursue that excellence and all the habits around them. So one thing I would like to talk about is ensuring that as you are in this network and even in your social lives, I know you're still young, you're still building your network of friends and all that. Ensure that you surround yourself with the right people is very, very key. Okay, don't just surround yourself with people who are constantly looking for ways to shine, looking for ways to, take always the how can I say, the award, and are not contributing. It's very important. The people that are around you will have so much influence on where you're going and what you see, because obviously we have that little voice inside us that sometimes when you wake up tells you, who do you think you are? Who do you think you are? All right. Why do you think you can achieve this? And I can tell you that as a CEO, I have actually struggled with that at some point, where I'm so clear about this is what I want to achieve. And I write it every day. This is my personal goal. This is my professional goal. This is my business goal. All right. And I was able to achieve great things just by writing and journaling every day, what I wanted to see, because I put a priority for the day about what will take me closer to that goal. And that's very important. But I had those days where I had that self-doubt. Okay. And someone came to me the other day and said, wow, you've achieved great things. I was like, really? What do you see? And they're like, but why are you not seeing what we're seeing? And I happened to be in a convention last week, and they talked about the imposter syndrome. The imposter syndrome. And that is something that a lot of CEOs suffer from. More women suffer from that, whereby you feel that you're almost stealing something from yourself. You've done so much, you've achieved so much. Not only you don't see it, but you also diminish that, So it takes really that awareness to realize that, no, if I want to go far, I'm not talking about, we have to be humble, but not to an extent where you're actually, hitting yourself on the foot. So yes, be proud of your achievement, and look at them, write them, learn from your successes, learn from your failures, and keep moving. Okay, so I hope I'm speaking to that imposter syndrome. If you can research it, it's something that is really real. Okay, so with this in mind, that you always see, that failure is a path, to success. Now, having said that, you've all done various studies. Can I just have professions or what you have studied in the chat? Who do I have? Do I have any dentists in the chat? Do I have anyone that studied architecture, lawyers? Let's get the chats bubbling now. What is your core competence? Law, psychology, architecture. Amazing. Law, yes, some to law, human geography, nice. International relation, nice. Public management, law and global governance, chemical engineering. Wow, art, lovely. Geology, sociology, business admin, and HR. Oh my God, this is what I want to do. This is what I want to do if I had another life, HR. Oh my God, people matter. Thank you very much for sharing. And this comes to the part that I would like to share, that in learning about excellence, I have learned, of course, to start with me. I have learned that It's if I have to work and grow from the 7 staff, the team members we had to about 82, it had to do with developing and empowering people. And yes, I said we have that vision, but that vision should not just stay on the wall. That vision, how do I carry those 82 people to see that vision for us to be a catalyst for changing the way oral health is perceived by even those dentists themselves, by patients, all right? So it had to do with communication. It had to do with communicating. It had to do with empowering and growing those leadership skills. I wasn't necessarily born a leader. I had to learn. I'm still learning. And 2 things, by the way, that I've learned by joining an amazing club that's called Toastmasters is communication and leadership. Toastmasters Club, that incidentally I'm the president of Eagle Toastmasters Club, enable you develop your public speaking skills, enables you develop your leadership skills, right? And I remember when I delivered my first speech and how I fumbled and how I couldn't even go past a minute of speaking, but it's just being in a room where you're not the smartest person and then you keep growing. So remember to have an impact on the people, very important. Keep an eye on who? Your client, your customers, your patient. That's number 1. Okay. Thank you very much, Demilade. That's number 1. And that's one clear focus, as I shared, keeping an eye on the client, ensuring that we get their feedback to be able to develop our processes, develop everything. And so far, last time I checked, we had 1,480 Google reviews. And one of the technical partners we had in the UK called me and said, how do you do this? We're in the UK and a group of us dentists were wondering, what is this practice in Nigeria doing to have close to 1,500 Google reviews? This is amazing. But if you have a clear focus on your clients and you ensure that you are intentional about their service, and then you're also intentional about them sharing their experience, you get there a drop at a time. And this is something that I began doing with my team at the beginning of this journey. The other aspect of excellence has to do with the material you use. And that's a big challenge because in dentistry, we're using material. We're not using our bare hands. And as much as we're doctors, we are using a lot of material that are also imported because we don't produce in Nigeria. And we have to pay all this upfront. With how the economy is going, how the inflation is going, how the devaluation of the dollar is going. Don't compromise because you know why you are there. Is to ensure that you keep a great service delivery, but your materials also are aligned with that excellent service. The other aspect is equipment. When you go sitting or lying down on that back, on the chair, you can't imagine the amount of equipment that are buried on that ground, compressors, suctions, and all the very high pressured pipes. But you need to ensure that, you invest in the best equipment. But most importantly, as I said, maintenance is not part of our culture. Maintenance aligned with excellence and keeping an eye on that. The other aspect is what? Processes, all right? And this is one thing we have learned by imbibing the Kaizen continued improvement system, where every day, everywhere, everybody at every time is looking for ways to grow, where you constantly look at things and find concerns, even if they are not even big concerns, and ask yourself, why is this happening? What can I do immediately to overcome that? While at the same time, looking for permanent countermeasure. So the best way for you to grow is to build that standard operating procedures through the Kaizen, but with everybody contributing to that. And that's a Toyota model, as you may know. So we talk about the people, begins from you. We talk about keeping an eye on your client, keeping an eye on the team. We talk about not compromising on material. We talk about not compromising on equipment. We talk about ensuring that those processes are there. Because if you are an architect and looking at someday, building, your business, you know that you will need to keep an eye on all those things. And perhaps the next level is what? Scaling up, because we've opened a second practice in Abuja. So we talked about, what do we want? Success or excellence? But you see, when you want to grow for more, or you want to grow for better? Or perhaps, as tourists, why can't we have both? Why can't we have both? But if you do not standardize how you run your business with that excellent focus, with everybody contributing and everybody keeping an eye on what has brought you thus far, it will be hard for you to scale up and maintain and sustain that level of excellence. Okay, so if you're an entrepreneur, of course, you want to grow, right? You want to grow the numbers, and it's important that you keep that in mind. Now, of course, what I like is that if you know that you have that vision of growing and you have that growth mindset, you will get there just with that dedication. I mean, I like to refer to basketball. Kobe Bryant, for example, he wasn't born and ready for NBA, right? He made himself, by his amazing work ethics. All right. He was the first one on the pitch, on the basketball court, and was the last to leave. All right. So his dedication and his plan continued to improve no matter what. The next level is history, but you know that with that growth mindset, you will be able to achieve that excellence. All right. So I think what I would like to leave you with is, don't just focus on your core skills. All right. The next level, how can you diversify? If you've studied sociology, geology, art, chemical engineering, law and global governance, public management, international relationship, human geography, interesting, you want to make sure that you have the opportunity to develop other skills. And those soft skills are what will make the difference in this 21st century world. And one thing that, as I shared here, is developing what? Your writing skills. Journal every day. And maybe that will take you someday to having a compendium of your journals and turning it into a book. Because when you see things on black and white, I know we have those screens, but it's nothing like a pen, blue ink or black ink on a white sheet of paper. So develop those writing skills. Develop your communication skills. I had a struggle with speaking to my team. I trained in French, and now I come to Nigeria, I have to start thinking in English. And it's okay to fumble. As a speaker, still make some of these errors where I pronounce a word in French and I just assume that's going to be an English word, and then sometimes I get away with it, because we have a bit of that Latin base. But sometimes people stop me like, hey, what's this? But if you don't make that mistake and you don't, go for it, you will never improve. So if you correct me, I take that correction, and I'll take that correction for life, right? So ensure that you are in an environment of people who will support you and take you to excellence. Okay, so what I would like to leave you with is ensure that, embrace life as what? A ground war versus an airstrike war. All right, the new modern way of running, where I saw a movie and how people were, attacking, some areas in Iraq, for example, just using drones, and you're able to sharply, reach out to your opponent, in a very precise way, in as fast as possible, and, without little resources, from the comfort of your your office space or military space. Okay. And yes, there is that air war a process that, will get you there fast. But if you want to grow, right, with excellence, you want to make sure that you are patient and you're able to face your life with a ground war strategy, because you have to plan. You have to be able to see where those hurdle obstacles are. And you want to make sure that if they come to you, you're able to go over those hurdles and ensure that you keep that purpose mind, on that focus. That goal is where you're going, all right? And trust the process, trust the journey, trust yourself, take away that imposter syndrome, and you will get there, all right? So with these tips in mind, I believe that you'll be just one step to success and so close to being excellent. Over to you, and I'll be ready for your questions. Thank you.
Wow, thank you so much, Dr. Amy. Thank you for your time, and thank you for your insightful words on excellence. A couple of things stood out in terms of focus, communication skills, developing, understanding that we're not alone. And thankfully, we have such communities like the Future Leaders Network, where we really want to build future leaders or communicate with existing leaders in their sectors. And the aim, as Dr. Amy, is to believe in yourself, to believe in your vision, in your dream, and know that it can become a reality. So thank you so much, Dr. Amy, for this amazing. Thank you, thank you. And now we're going to move on to a question and answer session. So if our attendees don't mind asking any questions, you can unmute or comment in the chat box as well. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Amy, for such an insightful session. I'm sure I'm not the only one that was blessed by this session. So before I open it up to questions, I just want to ask mine first. I guess my question is, how early in your life did you know that you wanted to study dentistry? And what advice would you give people that are like seeking their purpose and maybe are, just trying to navigate what their profession will be?
Thank you. Thank you very much for that. What I would like to say is, as you are living a life, a purposeful life, and driving yourself towards excellence, you know that you want to be somebody that people can trust. You want to be someone who has humor. You want to have somebody who's vulnerable. You want to be someone who is optimistic. You want to be someone who give that mutual respect, right? And someone who is grateful for everything that has happened so far. So talking about vulnerability, I wasn't, maybe the first person to say, I want to study dentistry. When I go to career talk, they're like, oh, did you always dream of being a dentist? No. My brother happened to be a medical doctor, and I was like, After I finished, I had my baccalaureate. I was like, okay, so what is there? I had mention, as we say in French. And I was like, okay, I could do medicine again, but I don't want to be in the same room as my brother. He's okay, nothing. I don't want to say what, he's always, pull my hair. And I said, I will choose the next one. And the next one was like either dentistry or pharmacy. And it's like, okay, I'll pick dentistry. All right. So I wasn't really always dreaming of being dentistry, but I can tell you from the day I set my foot in the dental school, I never regretted it. And in fact, I spent altogether 12 years from the main core dentistry that I did. That took me 6 years. I also specialized in what we call prosthodontics, dentofacial orthopedics, orthodontics, and medical legal and expertise, and what you call biology of dentistry. I just went on and on, indulging on anything that came my way. At some point, I was doing 2-3 specialization at the same time. So no regrets at all. So I think there was something much higher than me that took me in this path, and I'm loving it.
Thank you so much, Dr. Amy. And I'll open up the floor to anyone that has any more questions. Feel free to unmute and just go right ahead and ask your question.
Questions for Dr. Amy on excellence, on her journey? Any questions whatsoever? You can also put in the chat box if you'd like, or unmute.
Hi, Dr. Amy. I'd like to ask a question. I think you've spoken quite a lot on maintenance in Nigeria and keeping things up to standards. With that, my question was, how do you perfect excellence in a country such as Nigeria, where we are used to producing subpar results? That could be on the maintenance side, on the specialization side, or even dealing with suppliers or people who perform below the expectations. How do you deal with that, and how do you manage that, and how do you create excellence in these situations that are always against you?
Thank you. Thank you very much for that question, Tobe. So, of course, as I said, manage it like that. And I'm reading the definition. It's a Nigerian phrase that expresses the heart and soul of service delivery in Nigeria. It means take it as you see it, and it means just that. So it's an interesting journey because it has to begin with what I see. And as a leader, you want also people to not just hear what you say, but also see what you do. And I have to make sure that for the team, for example, that we have checklists, of course, because I talk about how we're very process driven. So when you come in, you have a checklist that says, look, switch on the light, put on your computer, like so detailed on what you have to do at the end of the day. All right. And that is one thing I will, we've set up to make sure that we see it across board, whether you're in Abuja or Lagos, so everybody at every position, you have a checklist. You have a checklist when in how to script about what to say on the call. When you're picking a patient, what do you begin? What, not to talk about the whole sterilization process. So there's so much, I don't think there's more than an organization that have so much checklists and documentation just to make sure that we sustain that. But what I tell people, I say, look, what you're learning here, go home and share that with your family. Ensure that if you have that bulb that's been, dead for over a few weeks, that has not been changed, that you make sure that you fix it in your house. And then share to everybody around you that, look, going forward, this is what we're going to be looking at, So it's about continuously, of course, setting processes, number one, and setting the standard of what you want to see. Very important. And actually sometimes putting pictures in front of them that, look, this is what I'm talking about, okay? It's not, and this is what is done out there. And then ensuring that, they see how you live by it. And that's something that's quite, that I've done also with people at my leadership level, or even some nurses, is taking them out. I've had nurses who travel with me, for example, to Paris when we had those conferences, or, to Dubai or to South Africa. And when they see it, they believe it. And they know that's not just a Dr. Amy's thing, you're right? So I think it's part of that exposure that also has helped. Thank you. Hope that answers.
Yes, it does. Thank you so much, Dr. Amy. It really did. Thank you.
Thank you, Troy.
All right, we'll take 2 more questions. So feel free, anyone.
I do have a question. Dr. Amy, during your speech, we're talking about how we should build our soft skills, including humor. How does one build their humor? I thought that was quite it was an interesting point, because no one talks about building humor as a skill for success. Yeah. And I've been asked, so what's your sense of humor? I'm like, I have no idea. How does one build their humor?
Thank you very much for that. I am known with my family and friends to be one of the most, the person who likes to crack jokes and all that. But when it's to add humor to my presentation, or, I'm seen as being too serious. And I think I have to, by my position, all right? Even though I'm not as strict as a COO, as you know, we see bosses in, you know, around us, but so I'm not the bossy type, but you know, I don't think as someone who has humor outside my space. And it's so important to develop that skill, because you have the opportunity to open doors, all right? Because if we look at, you know, the way we are social animals, right? As human, we're social animals. So if you go into any space, regardless of your skills, yes, people you can speak to, ensuring that you take care of their needs. Yeah, we have the Maslow hierarchy of needs, right? Safety, you know, all the biological needs. But you know that beyond that, love and sense of belonging is one thing that people urge for, right? And if you come with that level of care, if you come with humor, you know that you're going to have, I mean, my husband, for example, is very, he likes to chat a lot and he's very funny. And when we go into spaces, everybody gravitate towards him. I'm like, what? Why? What did you say? What did you do? Right? So again, we are social animals. You will learn from others, you will share to others, and it's something I'm still learning through my communication skills at Toastmasters. They actually have a path that's called, is about, you know, humor, how to develop your humoristic side. I hope that helps.
One last question, guys, before we close the session.
Do you have any burning questions? Take your time. All right. So yes, maybe we'll just leave about a couple more seconds for anybody that has any questions. But to conclude today's session, I just want to thank you all for attending. It's really an honor to have you all register and be here today with us. And also thank you very much, Dr. Amy, for your time. Thank you for your words of wisdom. And I really believe that we can all act upon these words in one way or another. So yes, I'd like to invite all of you to please check out Dr. Amy's Instagram, Smile360, leading dental practice in Nigeria, and also follow us on Instagram at Future Leaders NG, and also on Twitter, Future Leaders _ and then there's an NG. But just check out Instagram, Future Leaders NG, for more information and updates on our events. Without further ado, do we have any final questions? Yes, no? All right, so I think, yes, I think we're done. So thank you all. Thank you all.
Thank you. Well done. I'm really proud of what you guys are doing out there. This is a great network. I wish I had this when I was your age, but you know, maybe I could still join. Never too late.
You're always welcome.
Well done. Keep it up. Keep it up. I'm really proud of what you guys are doing. Well done.
Thank
you so much, Dr.
Keep the groundwork going.
Thank you so much, Dr. Amy.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Bye,
Thanks.